Architecture should be received by all the senses. Colours which you can hear with your ears, sounds to see with your eyes, the taste of space on your tongue, the void you touch with your elbows, the fragrance of dimensions, the juice of stone. That famous poem was written by the famed modernist architect Marcel Breuer in 1963. But you know what it told me? It told me that every building has a story. And today's story is about this house, the Glass House, designed by Philip Johnson in 1949. Back in 2005, I'd been asked by the magazine Home Miami, which was published by a friend of mine, his name's John O'Connor, and the writer Hilary Lewis, who is now the chief curator at the Glass House, to go up there and photograph the house for an article on the magazine and also for the National Trust for Historic Preservation. So I knew that this house had been photographed by my buddy over here, Julius Shulman, who, this is his most famous picture here, the Stall House in Los Angeles, and also by Ezra Stoller and a number of other great photographers. And I had no idea how I was going to compete with those iconic photographs. But you know what? Maybe I shouldn't have worried too much. So I go up to New Canaan to the Maples Inn. I stay there overnight. And the folks that are running the Glass House at the time, I asked them to leave the lights on overnight so that when I arrive first thing in the morning, that I'm all ready to go. So I get the taxi at 4:30 in the morning, and we're going through the winding streets of New Canaan, and we arrive at the Glass House, and the taxi goes down the driveway, and literally right in front of us is a deer in headlights. That was the start of the day. So I pull out of the taxi, grab my tripod, grab the camera bag, and I walk over to the Glass House. And there it is, in all its splendid glory. It's lit up at the back by Richard Kelly's amazing lighting. The lighting in the house is on, and I'm just in awe. So I go over there, and I say to myself, how am I going to start photographing this piece of architecture? And then I saw a swimming pool over to the right-hand side, and I said to myself, you know what? I wonder if I get low enough, I might be able to shoot 2 glass houses and not one because of the reflection. So I go over to the swimming pool, I lie down flat on my belly, I get my Canon out with my 24 tilt-shift lens, and I start shooting pictures, and this is the picture that eventually became the front cover of the official book. So after that, the Glass House opened to the public in 2007, and I was invited to go. And you know what? It was one of those sort of A-list things where there was lots of famous people. Jasper Johns was there, the famous artist, amongst many others. But out of the corner of my eye, I saw somebody that I really wanted to meet. And I looked at him, and I knew that it was Julius Shulman, the photographer of this famous picture, and one of my all-time creative heroes. So in my interior dialogue, I'm saying, you know, I'm not sure if I can actually go and say hello to him, you know. I'm either going to chicken out, or I'm going to gear myself up, I'm going to go over and shake his hand. So luckily, you know, the best part of me won out, and I went over to Mr. Shulman, and I said to Mr. Shulman, I said, Julius, Mr. Shulman, I just want to shake your hand and tell you how much I respect your photography and your career and what you've done for architectural photography. And you know what he said? Take a seat. What a nice gesture that was. I thought this was going to last about 5 minutes or so. But 4 hours later, and 3 or 4 glasses of champagne, bottles of champagne, I should say, we're still talking. And I want to relate to you a couple of the things that Julius told me that day. At the same time, he sat there with his assistant, Jürgen Nogai, who in his own right is a really good architectural photographer, but he'd been his assistant for the previous 8 or 9 years. And Julius was there to photograph the Glass House at the age of 94. You know, he was still really enthusiastic. So he would get Jürgen to carry his tripod, and then Julius would say, okay, this is the this is the composition that I want, these are the lights that I want, and Jürgen would do it for him. It was a very inspiring combination that the two of them had going. But Julius sat me down and we started talking. And you know what? I had the magazine with me that I'd originally shot. And I was a little nervous because I knew I had it in my bag, but was I actually going to show it to Julius to ask for a critique? So I geared myself up again and I gingerly get it out of my bag and I said, Julius, would you mind critiquing my work a little bit? But I want to tell you beforehand, and I want to apologize for the hot spot that's just in the top left-hand corner of the glass house there. And he looked at me with a stone face. And he said, Robin, whatever you do, don't criticize your own work in front of anybody else again. Because if you don't believe in your work, nobody else will. And he pounded his fist on the table. I said, okay, Julius, sorry, brother. And you know what? He was absolutely right. And then he went on to tell me that Richard Kelly, who had designed the lighting for the glass house, was one of the greatest lighting designers of the 20th century. And if Richard Kelly intended for there to be a hot spot in that place, there was supposed to be a hot spot in that place. Not you as a photographer trying to tone it down. So that was a good lesson. But then I managed to show him the photograph again of the glass house across the swimming pool at dawn. And he said something to me that I will never forget. He said, Robin, I wish I'd thought of photographing the glass house across the swimming pool at dawn. What a moment that was. That's something I'll never forget. Kind of propelled me for the next, well, this is 18 years later, and I'm still living off that one comment, you know. And so that was a really beautiful thing that he taught me that day. And after 4 hours or so, we kind of came to the end of the day, and we all said our goodbyes. And I left a better person for having known Julius Shulman that day. But in the same magazine that I had been shooting for, there were 2 articles. And one of them was written by Hilary Lewis, and the other one was written by the famous critic, Paul Goldberger. And both articles were talking about the Farnsworth house by Mies van der Rohe and the glass house by Philip Johnson, because these 2 buildings had always been in competition. And there's an interesting story behind it, because the Farnsworth house was designed first by Mies van der Rohe back in 1946 or so. But Philip Johnson, having, you know, a keen ear and a keen eye, and being a pretty wealthy chap himself, who he was able to be his own client, he beat Mies to the punch. And so the glass house appeared in 1949, and the Farnsworth didn't get finished till 1951. So the first glass house designed was the Farnsworth house, but the first one to be built was the glass house. Anyway, I'm reading these 2 articles and I'm thinking to myself, you know what? I wonder if anybody's done a show of the 2 buildings directly next to each other, side by side, as a series of diptychs. So I kind of did a little bit of investigation and didn't find anybody that had done it. So I started on this journey, and I called up the Farnsworth house through my contact, Terry Riley, and they said, sure, come over to the Farnsworth house and come and take some photographs. So I fly over to Chicago and get over to Plano, Illinois there, and I step into this temple of architecture. It is a spiritual experience going into the Farnsworth house. It is beyond eloquent. The flow of space is just breathtaking. It is an experience like no other. And the Farnsworth house is really quite different to the glass house. They're like cousins, they're not like brothers. And the Farnsworth house is floating. I called it bridge over troubled water, literally, because, you know, oftentimes it gets flooded. And I called, you know, the glass house the boxer, because it was a bit more earthy. And there was a bit of Frank Lloyd Wright in the glass house as well, with the fireplace. And the 2 sort of sing to each other across this lake of frozen music, if you like. And that exhibition eventually went to the Seagram building, and luckily, purely by chance, the Seagram building was designed by Mies van der Rohe, But also Philip Johnson had a hand in it, especially at the Four Seasons restaurant. And in the Four Seasons restaurant, there's this beautiful lobby. And you know what? In the lobby, they got the same furniture, the same Barcelona chairs that are in the Farnsworth house and in the Glass house. So not only did we have an exhibition in the architecture designed by these two amazing architects, the photographs had the same furniture in that the exhibition space did. It was a beautiful synchronicity. That was curated by Hilary Lewis too, which I'm very grateful for. But then another really interesting thing happened, and you can probably see this painting over here. And that painting is based on my photograph. And it's a painting by the amazing artist. His name is Muniz. And Vic was the subject of the Oscar-nominated documentary Wasteland in 2010, which is an incredible documentary, something I really encourage you to see. So Vic had seen my photograph, and the Glass House needed to raise funds, and Vic had put this together. And I got a phone call from his studio saying, you know, Mr. Hill, we really like the photograph, and we'd like to use it to help raise funds. And Vic Muniz, being very generous, you know, he gave me this 40 by 60 artist proof of the Glass House, which is actually done with Bosco chocolate syrup. It's a drip painting that he then photographs. So that was a really beautiful gesture from one artist to another. And this story, well, it keeps on going because I've had a 17-year relationship with the Glass House. And I go up there every couple of years to photograph new things that have been going on. And you will see, if you ever get the chance to go there, that it's on a 49-acre estate and that there are 10 other buildings on the estate, all designed by Philip Johnson at different stages of his career. He's very eclectic. But here's the point. From all the photographs that you're seeing today, you know, a photograph can only tell you a slice of the story. Because if you really want to get to know architecture, you have to receive it with all of your senses. You have to be there. You got to hear it, you got to listen to it, you got to touch it, you got to become one with it to really understand what the architecture is about. So my job as an architectural photographer is to give you a flavor of the building. But you only get the reality of the building when you go experience it for yourself. Thank you very much for listening today, and please remember to subscribe to the channel. My name is Robin Hill. Thank you very much.